Hi, my name is Jenny Singer, and I am applying for Dorot. And the best way to get to know me is to see me in action doing something I'm super passionate about. So, in this case, I'm going to share with you a passion I've had since I was in fifth grade, and I had an incredible Torah teacher who would do the same thing, which is retelling Jewish stories in a accessible and slightly more modern way. So, I have my grandma Ruth's copy of the Holy Scriptures with me today, and I'm going to be telling you the story of what my Hebrew school kids know as the cheesecake holiday, because I do believe that high quality Jewish education style involves a certain amount of food bribery. But I am going to argue that the book of Ruth is the best story that the Jewish people have ever told about ourselves. And I know that's a major claim, but the Book of Ruth is unique in that it could easily be a worldwide phenomenon, brand new Disney princess movie. Ruth could be the first first intermarried Jewish Disney princess. And the Book of Ruth could be equally successful as a high concept HBO miniseries. It would be super acclaimed. Let's get to it. The Book of Ruth opens in the most classic fairy tale style, which is that a parent and two beloved children are just instantly mass murdered by the narrator. They're gone. Think of this as a transgressive feminist human Jewish Bambi. The male characters have been swept out of the way by a unexplained calamity to make room for the female characters to manifest themselves as the narrative develops. That's Ruth. It passes the Bechdel test on the first page, which is incredible. So let's get there. Naomi, amazing role for a elderly character actress. She's scrappy, bitter, you beaten down by life. Sort of, I'm gonna go there. Classic Jewish mom, and I do think that Jewish mom stereotypes are hackneyed and sexist, but Naomi is a phenomenal Jewish mom. She tells the girls, get out of here, scram! Go back to your own mom's places. I'm just going to bring you down. And they're crying and they're begging. And Orpah says she's not going to go. And then she goes. And right away, the book of Ruth has shown us there are going to be well-developed, integrity-filled, just well-drawn, lovely female characters to spare. She's not even the good big character. And we already love her on the first page. Orpah pieces out. Ruth delivers a monologue that I don't need to tell you. I'm thinking Natalie Portman for this role. I mean, it just makes sense. Natalie Portman delivers this monologue that she's going to win an Oscar when the movie finally gets made. People are going to put this in their Facebook statuses. They're going to engrave it in their wedding rings. It's incredibly beautiful, poetic language. The deepness of her loyalty to her mother-in-law is very unexpected, and it really transgresses everything that we know about the mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationship. The Book of Ruth isn't taking any crap when it comes to archetypal mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationships. Nuh-uh. So these two women go on this really dark reverse odyssey back to Beit Lechem, which is some pretty heavy foreshadowing on the part of the Torah, in my opinion, that named Beit Lechem. But they go back there, and Naomi's so mar'ad, she's so bitter. The women try to be her friend. She's not having any of it. Ruth is like, hey, I don't mean to complain. I've noticed we're starving to death. Naomi knows that she has a wildly successful, on all accounts, very kind family member living it up in Beit Lechem, but she doesn't get in contact with him because that's not how Naomi rolls. That's not who she is. If you thought that was Naomi, you shouldn't have gone to Beit Lechem with her because that's not who she is. Ruth is a get-along gal. She goes straight to the field. Naomi does not fill her in on whose field it is, and wouldn't you know it, because the Torah is magic. It's Boaz's field. And she's picking up the barley. And this is an amazing thing to teach kids about because it demonstrates how these laws, these sort of endless laws that we have been reading about in the Torah that don't seem particularly relevant really existed to create a just and merciful world in ancient Israel. There really is something there. So these gleaning laws are like suddenly playing this big role in this fairy tale pecuniary family romance. And she's going through the field getting the barley. Boaz comes out. Boaz has got a lot of swagger. I highly encourage you to imagine a circa the year 2000 Colin Firth in this role. Colin Firth is walking through the fields, and this is so classic Torah, Tanakh. It's a book it's filled with laws and history and dullness and the use of the word ass that means donkey, but it's just always really disconcerting. And sometimes suddenly they spring on us these moments of intense, magical, romantic, sort of erotic, mystical moments. And this is one of them. Boaz sees Ruth. He is overcome. And if I'm telling my friends, I say Boaz saw the most incredibly beautiful woman he had ever seen before. And if I'm teaching kids, I say, and Boaz saw this incredibly strong, capable woman working in the field. So Colin Firth sees Natalie Portman in the field. He says, "Who is that?" And his workers say, "That's Ruth. That's Ruth." And Boaz goes over to her. He gets her water. He wants her to sit down. He wants her to glean in other places. He wants people to help her out. He tells the workers to not give her a hard time, which gives me a little bit of pause. I'm wondering, was he allowing the workers to give the other homeless, starving beggar women a hard time? So Boaz might not be perfect, but he doesn't want them to give her a hard time. She goes home, bursting to the seams with grain. Naomi looks up. She's like, "Listen, I wasn't born yesterday. That's not a normal amount of grain to have from a single day of gleaning. What gives, Ruthie?" And Ruth explains, and Naomi, she gets it. And she instantly comes up with a plan to pimp her daughter-in-law out to her second cousin. So you've got to give Naomi a lot of credit for her chutzpahdik shidduch making. She dresses Ruth up. These people are very, very poor, and that I imagine that she does what she can to put her feminine wiles on display. Ruth goes at midnight. Could this be more Cinderella? At midnight, Ruth goes, peers open, opens the threshing floor, sees where Boaz is lying passed out on the floor. He seems to be really rocking some kind of work hard, play hard lifestyle. She uncovers his feet. And this is the place where I had to ask the director of education at the synagogue I teach at, so what do I tell the kids? She uncovers his feet. And the director said, "Listen, the Torah does it for us. She uncovers his feet. It's the perfect euphemism. Just use it." So she uncovers his feet. He wakes up. You got to imagine the person you have a secret crush on has woken you up at midnight, covered in perfumes, gazing into your eyes. Boaz, to his credit, he's deeply confused, but he refuses to let anything untoward happen. He wants everything to be above board. He says, "Listen, get some sleep. We're going to figure this out in the morning." They go to sleep, they wake up, and once again, he's faced with the incredibly beautiful and appealing Ruth, and he does something so unexpected, and yet so in line with what this story has been about, which is not just erotic love, but is sustenance. He fills her skirts with grain. Boaz is the kind of mensch who will not let you go home to your mother-in-law without some grain. She goes home. Naomi's like, "Yeah, you got the grain. This is all going to work out." The story suddenly takes a bizarre turn with Boaz running around town trying to figure out the legal and ethical ramifications for his marriage to Ruth. It's like out of Henry Fielding, this runaround. It's going to be a great montage in the movie. Probably Accidentally in Love is going to play over it. I mean, let's get the rights. And he ends up being able to marry Ruth, and they have a son. And that's not the end of the story. Because it's a story about romantic love or luck or rags to riches. But it's a real Cinderella that on the surface, and I really think Jane Austen, whose father was a rector, must have been extremely familiar with the Book of Ruth. On the surface, it is this completely enchanting fairy tale about very, very, very unlikely love. And beneath that, it is a story about how people survive, how people fight incredibly difficult conditions and do what they have to do to survive, and how Judaism survives. And Naomi kind of represents how a person who has been so touched by loss and so terribly dealt such a terribly unfair hand can be redeemed. Ruth is incredibly ahead of her time. She's like a surrogate for Naomi. She gives Naomi her baby. Naomi is able to nurse the baby. Naomi is able to nourish the baby with her own body. And Naomi is not Mara anymore. Naomi is sustained. Ruth becomes she seizes hold of the Jewish narrative, this once non-Jewish and impoverished woman, and the story becomes one of how the Jewish people survive and how individual people are able to be sustained and nourished by one another and by their tradition. And if the book of Ruth is anything to go by, they do it with prayer, but they also do it with a lot of bravery, with a lot of chutzpah, and with a lot of togetherness, with a lot of very, very odd couple, unexpected togetherness.